asked me to sing one of my songs.
All right. What's your biggest song that you ever wrote? What's your favorite?
Well, I love Sober.
Sober. That's the one Pink did, right?
Yeah.
So when she's on the radio singing that, and you obviously can sing, do you ever say, why didn't I just record that song?
No, I say, thank God for that bitch. I love her.
Really? You don't want the spotlight?
No. Not like that. I love singing, I do, but...
What do you mean you wrote that song? I mean, you wrote the music?
Let me tell you what it was,
all right,
okay?
let me understand it.
Because this is important, you know, a hell of a high note gets into this. It says, you know, because there's been all this stuff in the press about all these things that I've been through, but why it discusses it is because every experience I've had and everything I've gone through has been put into my songs. So I had an eating disorder, okay?
Yeah, okay.
So we go to write Sober. You know, when you have an addiction...
What do you mean you go to write Sober? Is that you mean you're with Pink?
I get a call from Pink.
You write together in a room.
Exactly. So I get there, and to be honest with you, it was the second time we'd met. The first time was a bit awkward. I met her. She was at the end of this album, and her record label was like, "You need to go out and find a hit." Meanwhile, she had all the hits, and they were like, "Go meet this girl, Kara." And she's like, "Who's this bitch, Kara?
Right.
You know, I got to go meet someone now. I'm a big artist." So I met her, and it was a little awkward, and I thought, "Oh, I blew that. That's never going to happen." But she called a year later, and I went out to Malibu.
Isn't it funny you think you blew it? She blew it. She needs you. She needs the songwriter.
I don't know if she needs me. She's pretty damn good, I got to tell you. She's
I think she's a very talented woman, and I like her music.
She's writing a lot of her
songs,
right?
She really does, so I'm going to tell you what happened.
And I love that song, Sober.
Well, so what happens is I go out there, and I'm like, you know, let's talk about what happened last time, because as women... You know, you never want to be in a room with a woman and there's some weird shit going on. So we cleared the air on that, and then we opened the bottle of wine.
Right.
And I am not a big drinker. Like one or two, and I'm up on the bar, man.
Me too.
I'm ready to go.
Right.
This girl, she can drink a lot more than me, so I try to keep up. But what happened is we just had this great game of like drunken tennis, you know?
You mean you would spew out a line, and then Pink would spew out a line?
Exactly, and that's how we would do it. She had the last line, "How do I feel this good sober?" And they had the track.
How did you know to call it? Did she come over and say, we're going to write a song called Sober?
She said, I have a title, "How do I feel this good sober?" And we wrote backwards from that.
And you were drunk when you wrote it?
Totally drunk.
That's insane, right?
It was so fun, and I was so drunk that when I went to get in my car on the Pacific Highway, Coast Highway, I had to pull over. I think I had to nap for 45 minutes.
Do you remember which lines you wrote in the song?
I remember the pre-chorus. I definitely influenced because it was a 4-bar loop. I don't know if you about.
We don't know anything.
Right. Okay.
We're idiots.
Yes.
So
from the
you're definitely not an idiot,
right.
but that is colon, all that stuff in the pre, and a lot of the melodies, and we did it together.
Who writes the melody? You guys write it together.
We both do. I mean, you know, to get down to who did what, I'm telling you, that girl is one of the most talented people I have ever been around.
That is insane.
The best writing session of my life, and on my mother's soul, the girl went into the recording booth and sang it 3 times, and it was done.
I've never heard a better explanation about how someone writes a song. I've never really gotten...
It's chemistry. It's a date. It's a date.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes in and nails it.
Nailed it like you've never seen. We all had goosebumps.
Do you go to an office every day?
Not every day, but I go there.
You're a record executive at Warner Brothers.
Yeah. You
have a title. What is your title?
It's, you know, like A&R.
Right. You go out and discover people. That's got to be a trip because you can literally take the hand of God and forget American Idol.
Yeah.
You could take the hand of God, go see a kid in a club, and make him one of your artists.
I'm trying to change what's been going on in music because here's the thing: we got to have the right gatekeepers. Because you know, people ask why isn't there a Beatles or a this or a that?
Right.
Well, artists are sensitive, and if they're in the wrong hands, they'll end up in bed for 4 years. You know, so imagine that somebody walks in who's really got the goods and they're mishandled or they're not talked to. You know, creative people speak a certain language. Business people and creative don't. So
you know what?
They respect me more than they would like some, you know, guy who really has never.
You're absolutely right. You've written songs. You understand artists because what you say is not bullshit. I have friends who are in the recording industry. They can't get out of bed in the morning. They get into such depressions. They feel so much. That's how come they can write songs. They feel this intensity. You
know, that's partially what this book is about. It's, you know, you cannot write great songs unless you come from a place of truth. And when you talk about Pink, the reason she's so great is she comes from her truth. She's not ashamed of it, and she lets it out there, and she's inspired so many people, especially women.
So you sat in the studio with her, she does this song, and you can smell a hit, can't you?
I was, whether it was a hit or not, it was a life-changing experience for me. It went, in my brain, I went, why would I ever go in the studio with someone who didn't inspire me?
Now, after that magic happens, why does she say to you, let's go sit and write 10 more songs? Why is it just the one?
Well, you know, she wrote a lot with Max Martin, these new songs, and he's one of the best songwriters ever.
You see what's coming across right now? Here you are, a woman who's incredibly knowledgeable about the music industry and have been responsible for millions and millions of records, and yet that never came across on American Idol. And in a way, that's the program's fault. You couldn't have set that up.
We didn't know who we were listening to.
In fact, you seem to be more important to me now because you do have this credibility.
Well, thank
What's
you.
the most difficult song you ever wrote? I'll give you a couple of...
Ain't No Other Man.
Ain't No Other Man.
I'll tell you.